Hello and welcome to the community producers of the North Island for our first show of 2018. I'm Mark Hanley. When I was reviewing the stories for the show today, I found a lot of dedication and passion. We'll meet three groups from the Comox Valley who each celebrated Canada's 150th birthday in their own way. Sue Vince will be here from the Comox Valley Cycling Coalition with a story that's more about a passion for something other than cycling. And Judy Murakami is going to take us down to the river at Kus-Kus-Sum. But first, most of us here in Vancouver Island tend to take winter fun at Mount Washington for granted. The mountain's been there forever after all, right? But the resort that we all know, the ski hill that we all know, it's actually a relatively recent phenomena. And it is a true work of love and dedication. Here's Kate Brown.
41 years ago, Peter Gibson came up to this very spot. There was nothing around. There were trees, there was sunshine, and there was snow.
When I started here in 1977, I was on a chainsaw. There was three of us. I cut my knee open on the second week, and I had to drive myself. I was the first aid person. I had to drive myself to St. Joe's. I got stitched up, and I drove right back up again because the other two had no way of getting down.
Peter Gibson was one of the founders of this resort. He had the vision to see what it could be, and he worked at it for 41 years to what it is today. What a legacy Peter has given us.
The other sort of highlight I'd like to talk about, that's 1979 when we opened. In September and October into November, I was conducting tours of the new state-of-the-art day lodge. In those days we had Forbidden Plateau, Mount Arrowsmith, and Green Mountain. And the highlight of the tour, and a lot of people when I ask them, they don't get it. The highlight of the tour was the flush toilets. And I used to take people into the washrooms and actually flush the toilet, and I would get... So that was year one. That was pretty exciting. The equipment has changed. There was no snowboarding in those days. The shorter skis have made for a lot of people, they ski a lot later in life now. But it's still the same people, the same families, and we're probably into our fourth generation.
After 41 years, Peter's retiring. He's no longer going to be managing a ski resort, he's going to be farming and having a great time. Well, what an amazing park here, and you're doing a great job to keep it so lively, and it's fabulous up here.
No, I appreciate it, and as I've told everybody, this is my last winter, and it'll be next May, it'll be 41 years, and I think that's long enough.
So you'll be in Hawaii this time next year?
No, I got a little farm, and I tell people I used to have hair when I started.
On Mount Washington, I'm Kate Brown.
Thanks, Kate, for that story. Before we leave Canada's 150 behind us, we thought we'd bring you one more story about the Rotary clubs of the Comox Valley and how they helped a whole lot of Valley residents commemorate our 150th anniversary. And each group did it in their own way.
Who doesn't love a contest? Who loves Canada? Who loves Rotary? They've all come together. They've all come together with stories of why people love Canada, how to celebrate Canada's 150th anniversary coming up. To promote literacy, the Rotary Club has sponsored a contest.
We had three categories. There was elementary, there was high school, and there was adult. And we had every kind of representation, from murals to mobiles, to collages, to poems, to rap songs, stories of peacekeeping in other countries, stories of immigrating to Canada, all very thoughtful, insightful, and wonderful to have this response and see how much people really care about Canada and how thankful they are to be in Canada.
We have so many luxuries here. We have so many great opportunities, and that I just want to, thanks to the Rotary, I'm able to share some of the opportunities that we have with other people in the world.
Aisha at Highland School is showing the importance of diversity and the importance of inclusion in Canada. To her, that's one of the key things about being a Canadian. How did you get your ideas? Is this something you've thought about for a while?
My teacher has kind of brought it up with the class, like the importance of Canadian identity, and Miss Mather, my socials teacher, we were talking about tolerance and inclusiveness, and this shirt kind of represents Canada to me. The colors are the diversity in Canada, and we're all intertwined, and nobody shines brighter than another, and just all the aspects of inclusiveness I think is important in politics, religion, sports, art.
Aisha's was excellent, so insightful, and considering so many aspects of Canadian identity and inclusivity and progress. So.
At Glacier View Lodge, we see a big mural that has incorporated in a lot of the residents their stories about Canada, where they've lived, where they've come from.
They started sharing their stories, and it struck me that their stories were all about Canada, about their connections to Canada, about their parents' connections to Canada, or maybe even their grandparents' connections to Canada. And it struck me that we are truly just a country full of immigrants that have come to this country, and their stories were about hope and adventure and the real desire to have a beautiful life. And every story that I've heard about their connections to Canada was a positive and loving story.
But as the residents started doing their art projects that were presented to them, they started talking about where they'd gone, what they'd done, and then adding things on and contributing to the group, and it was exciting and fun. It was really interesting, and our teachers knew exactly what to ask us to get the best out of us.
Art therapy is amazing for creating a different language to talking with people with dementia often, or in triggering memories and making it into art.
And we don't work here otherwise, so we didn't know anyone anyway, so we got to know everyone really quite well.
For the elementary school category, the winners for the Rotary Literacy Awards goes to École Rob Road and the class of Madame Leith Mills. We're going to see them summarize what do they love about Canada.
What Canada means to us. Freedom and beavers. Poutine. Eagles. Peace. Home. Family. Books. Clean water. Nature. Forests. Friendship. Love. Here. Happiness and Terry Fox. Maple syrup. All kinds of people. Safety. Sports. Airplanes. Lacrosse. Hockey.
Safe schools.
We love Canada.
What are they going to do with the prize?
Well, we're going to probably have a vote, and they have lots of great ideas. I've heard YANA, SBCA, different organizations, so we're probably going to vote and donate a bit to a few different people.
That sounds great. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, class.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of the Rotary clubs in the Comox Valley for encouraging people to think about what do they love about Canada. In the Comox Valley, for Shaw TV, I'm Andrina Kasholti.
Thanks to Andrina Kasholti for that story. We do live in a fabulous country. We're going to take a break right now, but when we come back, I'm going to take you on a float house. It just isn't quite what you expect.
Request access to air your content on the Community Producers. Volunteer with us. Join a free TV workshop. Check out these websites.
Thanks in part to the support of the CVCF, the Courtenay Recreational Association provides much needed social, instructional, and fitness programs to adults with developmental disabilities.
Welcome back to the Community Producers of the North Island. I just love the Campbell River Museum. It's really well curated. There's lots of interaction. I ring the dinner triangle in the lumber camp every time I go. I can't show you the whole museum, but I do have one exhibit for you. Ready to get your feet wet?
I'd like to invite you to step on the deck of our recreated float house. The float house brings back a lot of nostalgia for people who've lived on the coast. At one time, there were several float houses up and down the coast. They were a very portable way of moving. If you worked in the winter in a logging camp and then in the summer at a fish cannery, just take your house along the waterway and off to the next place. They were in all sizes, from very large dwellings tied together to form little communities with floating schools and floating cookhouses, to very small ones. The one that we have replicated is a very small float house, which is intended to be the first home, the starter home of a young family. So visitors can come on the deck, can peer through the windows, and have a look at some of the things that the family has done to make it work in this very mobile home.
Do check out the museum if you get a chance. It's on the Old Island Highway as you come into town from the south. Sue Vince from the Comox Valley Cycling Coalition has been a regular contributor to our program, and she's back this week with a story that's more about a passion for something other than cycling.
We see lots of people riding bikes in the Comox Valley, but did you know someone's collecting and sharing cycling stories? Meet Terry.
I've been a coalition member since its inception, probably 7 or 8 years now, and it became apparent that the general public and the membership both needed to be kept up on what we were doing, because we do some really good work. My name's Terry Burke, and I'm the editor of the Comox Valley Cycling Coalition's newsletter.
So Terry, what's important about writing a newsletter?
I think newsletters are very, very important for keeping people up to date on what an organization is doing. I'm happy to have any cycling stories.
Oh, I like this one too.
So last year we did a riding in cold weather story, and I threw it open to membership and asked them for suggestions, and somebody said, oh, I fill my water bottle with hot water and stick it next to my shirt so I've got a drink and I stay warm. Pictures are great. Actually, pictures sent in have been the basis of a few articles. I did bicycle stands around the Comox Valley, and several people sent me pictures, so that was helpful.
What's the toughest part about being an editor?
I have a bit of an editorial group, and I send, after I put all the effort into making all the words fit in the right spaces, I send it off, and when I get suggestions back that the wording needs to change, it's another few hours.
What about the high points?
I think the most, the highest point was when we actually asked the membership, should we continue this? And I got all kinds of comments back from people I didn't realize were reading it, saying don't stop.
Terry's newsletters are on the Cycling Coalition's website. Click Files, then Newsletters to view the list of her stories.
I said at the top of the program that Judy Murakami was going to take us down to the river. Well, let's go to Kus-Kus-Sum.
It is currently one of the eyesores of the Comox Valley, but it's going to be an amazing area that brings back wildlife, helps the salmon. Kus-Kus-Sum, or Unpave the Paradise, is the newest project here in the Comox Valley. It's a collaboration and cooperative effort between the Comox Band, the City of Courtenay, and Project Watershed.
I've been working on conservation and ecosystem restoration projects in BC for the past 20 years. And the closest project to this one that I've been involved with was the restoration of the Campbell River estuary. There were 3 sawmill sites, log booming ground, barge loading terminal, lumber storage area, and things like that that were all involved in the restoration of that project. Given that that was such a successful program, I feel very confident that we'll be able to replicate that success here in Courtenay.
This site obviously has been impacted by the industrial activity that took place on it. And in particular, the steel-clad retaining wall along the site really disconnects it from the Courtenay River. And seals are actually able to use that to their advantage to prey upon fish that are migrating past the site. And that includes juveniles that are out migrating in the spring, as well as adult spawners that return in the fall. So we want to really see the connection restored back to the river again, have a more natural shoreline, and then have essentially little creeks and deeper pond areas for refuge for the fish to move through here.
When do you see this project finishing?
So there will be several phases to how the project unfolds. We have already completed the negotiations phase with the landowner to agree on a purchase and sale contract for the property. Now we're in the fundraising phase. We have 2 years to raise the funds that we need to purchase and restore the property. Assuming that we're successful with that, then we would like to get going on the restoration right away. So that would begin in more than likely 2019, maybe 2020 by the time we actually get things going. The initial restoration work will take a lot of heavy lifting, but can be done relatively quickly. So the major reshaping of the landscape, that kind of thing, doesn't take that long particularly, but months anyway. And then the planting, of course, takes a lot longer, and then we have to wait for the plants to become established and begin to grow before we really consider success. So it'll all going well, this site will look radically different and look just like nothing had ever happened here by about 2025.
Well, we're very fortunate that we have Hollyhock Marsh essentially adjacent to the site, because that really acts as a template that we can use to restore the biology back to this site. So what we're looking at are some tidal wetland channels. Of course, we want to reforest the area, and that's going to be good for fish, not just salmon, but trout as well, and also a lot of different bird species. This area is part of the Comox Estuary, and the Comox Estuary is an internationally recognized important bird area. There's also lots of wonderful plants that we want to see reestablished here. And again, we're using the template of Hollyhock Marsh and the plants that grow there at specific elevations to use as our blueprint for what we want to do on this site.
So if you'd like to donate to Kus-Kus-Sum, you can go onto the website for projectwatershed.ca or Kus-Kus-Sum. Go down to their office in Tin Town, stop in, get chocolate bars, art prints. Your donations are tax deductible if you're donating money, and make sure that you contribute to one of the Comox Valley's future treasures. From the Comox Valley, this is Judy Murakami for Shaw TV.
Thanks to Judy Murakami for that story. I sure hope that project comes through. Well, that's our show for the first month of the year. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back next month with more stories in the community producers of the North Island. I'm Mark Hanley. Thanks for watching.